So the first aspect we're going to look at is the tempo of the build and what impact that plays in breaking down a block. So it's one aspect that I see a lot of teams struggle with. When a team drops off defensively into a medium block, all of a sudden you've got more time and the centre backs in possession of the ball. So in this one here, it's a traditional 4-4-2, dropped a bit low in red. Whenever possession tempo is slow and the ball's played over there, these players are usually instructed to shift across, restrict space on one side, and then this player might have time on the ball. You keep possession, you work it around the other side, and the slower that is, the more time the red team has to recover. So if the ball speed is high and it's quicker, it opens up pockets of space and might be the difference between one player being closed down right away, or one player having 5 yards of space, or even at the highest level, one player allowed to get their head up and seeing something a little bit quicker ahead of them. So the tempo of the build is really, really important. Another aspect that I think we should look at is the technique of the pass going across the back four, and that pass will usually dictate whether the player can step forward, maybe penetrate a line. If the pass is a yard or two backwards, the centre back has to go back, someone else can recover, and they're back to square one. So it's not just the speed of the ball, but it's the technique of where the pass is going into the front foot, and if there's an option on that centre back can then see it, or the fullback can see it, and maybe a little bit of space and play it in here, and all of a sudden you've broken that line down. And this also applies then to the start of the build. So how quickly does a team get to set their block? And if you take quick throw-ins, do they set their block as quick? And as the game goes on, and usually teams frustrate as the game goes on and attacking teams become a little less patient, then can you penetrate the blocks before they get built? So I'm going to show you an example of that there. So this is Norway against the Faroe Islands. You can see on the clock, 35 minutes into the game, the Faroe Islands are just recovering to get their block set in the build, and the Norwegians think and move quickly, and before the block is set you can see there's 4 straight passes here into the block, and then they're into the final third really quickly. There's an overlap and run, and it just creates space even in the penalty area, and it's a great finish. So an idea to work on the training pitch would be, one of my favourite exercises, 6 or 7 balls, 10v9 in the build defensively. The blue team have to go and retrieve a ball on the line to start. They've got 6 seconds to get the ball over the halfway line and get into the defensive line against the 9 players, and then they attack. So after every attack, which this one results in a goal, they've got 6 seconds then to sprint back and get another ball. Then they have 6 seconds to get over the halfway line. If the red team win possession, they can score 1 point with 6 passes, or they can score 2 points by getting into the opposition half. So the second idea is to get a balance right between dribblers and passers in your team. So again, when you're in a possession team, you're obviously built around circulating the ball around, looking for spaces to penetrate passes in, around, through defensive lines. But it's also, as the ball moves, defensive lines typically move. So what the great teams have, I feel, is that blend between being able to play penetrative passes and also being able to dribble in between lines and being able to beat midfielders, defensive forwards in 1v1 situations. So it's not just a case of pass, pass, pass. It might be a case of playing a ball into a number 10 and driving in, open up space, and all of a sudden you have got access to the defensive line. And then there's an opportunity to possibly create a goal scoring chance with numbers forward. So example of this here is Brazil against Ecuador. You can see here all of the Ecuador players are on their half of the field. Brazil switched the play, and the Ecuador team shift into a 4-5-1, and the ball opens up for Coutinho, who's dropped off here, and he sees a pass into the centre forward. So majority of us would see that as a penetrative pass, and then the opportunity maybe to bounce one into the midfielder and then attack. But Coutinho dribbles, and then there's a movement from the forward who reacts to it. Coutinho keeps going, and then a little bit of magic in the penalty box results in the goal. Ecuador broken down with both possession and dribbling. So simple session idea, again a 10v9, starting with the blue team in the build. If they break into the yellow zone on the dribble, they get 1 point, and then if they score, they get 2 points for every goal. So just to encourage the blue team to see opportunities where they can penetrate on the dribble, drive forward, look for teammates who can maybe do the same, and then once they get in there, again incentivizing them to get into the final third and create chances. If the red team win the ball back, they can score in any of the 3 goals. So another idea of beating the medium block is the rotation of your midfielders. Again, in the initial build, centre backs having possession, usually.
This was a sample of a webinar that I did for Modern Soccer Coach to look at in depth how can you play against defence-minded teams who limit space and opportunities, especially in the attacking third. So how can we specifically develop teams and individuals to excel against these defensive blocks? So if you would like access to the full webinar, please click on the link below modernsoccercoach.com. Thank you so much.